Unraveling the mystery. Why did Satan wanted the body of Moses? Have you heard of the heavenly battle between Archangel Michael and Satan by the body of Moses? Yes, this is really in the Bible. Discover the puzzle behind Satan's obsession with the body of Moses and the deep spiritual implications of this direct confrontation between heaven and hell. I was there in the ends of the heavenly kingdoms, witnessing the epic battle between Archangel Michael and Satan himself. But it was not a common battle. It was not a soul or earthly treasure. Well, it was by the body of Moses. Yes, the body of a mortal man was at the center of this cosmic confrontation. And you might be wondering, why would the devil care so much about the remains of a simple man? The answer is more complex than you might imagine. Here, in this heavenly clash, deep revelations were about to be unveiled. The essence of what the body of Moses represented, his story with God, his legacy for the people of Israel, all this was at stake. The obsession of Satan went beyond the physical. It was about challenging the work and plans of the Most High through the extraordinary figure that was Moses. I was there in the ends of the heavenly kingdoms, witnessing the epic battle between Archangel Michael and Satan himself. The confrontation was not just a matter of strength or power, but symbology and transcendent meaning hovered over us at that time. Satan's obsession with the body of Moses could not be understood in a simplistic way. It was as if he wanted to subvert not only an inert container, but a whole divine story. It was as if the essence of the body of Moses represented a direct challenge to heavenly intentions, an affront to the promises made since ancient times. Each movement, every word given in that invisible battle reverberated with unfathomable cosmic weight. What was really at stake was not simply physical possession, but a statement of spiritual sovereignty. As an attentive messenger of heavenly events, I could see the tension in the air when Miguel and Satan faced each other for something deeper than the eyes could see. The question about the real reason for the dispute echoed in the mind of the celestial spectators, while the battle unfolded, revealed layers on layers of hidden meaning under the surface of known reality. I clearly remember the grandeur of Moses, a man whose life was intertwined with miracles, revelations, and deep intimacy with the divine. From his birth marked by the Watersoul Challenge, where his mother put him in a basket to float on the Nile River, to his mysterious death in the lands of Moab, the journey of Moses echoes as a sacred epic that resonates through the ages. He emerged not only as a leader among men, but as a chosen one who spoke directly to God, receiving eternal principles on boards recorded by the divine finger. Their steps guiding the Israelites towards the liberation of Egypt and the till of the Promised Land were marked by wonders that challenged the natural laws and revelations that penetrated the veils of the invisible. His presence radiated authority and fear before the Almighty, and his legacy became a lighthouse for those who seek the truth on the journey of faith. Even after his departure from this earthly world, the name of Moses remains embedded in the fundamental stones of sacred history, reminding us of the grandeur of the one who went beyond the human limitations to approach the divine. I clearly remember the crucial moment when Moses, after a life dedicated to leading the children of Israel towards freedom and divine promise, faced the latter and perhaps more bitter trial of his earthly journey. This was the occasion when he should again manifest the glory and power of his God before the thirsty people in the desert. The Lord had ordered Moses to speak to the rock so that it would spark water to quench the headquarters of the crowd. However, taken by an impetus of anger in the murder of the people, Moses contradicted the divine instructions. Instead of speaking to the rock, he injured her with her staff and uttered words that reflected her exasperation. "Will we make you water from this rock?" At that moment, the man who was so often an instrument of mercy and divine justice, allowed to be consumed by frustration and pride. The error in human eyes might seem small, but the spiritual consequences were deep and irreversible. By removing from himself the protagonism of that imminent miracle, Moses not only disobeyed the commandment of the Lord, but also obscured the glory of God before all the people present there. That only hasty choice sealed a painful destination for the tired leader who had so fighting for the heavenly cause. I clearly remember the passage recorded in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 34, verses 5 and 6, which intriguingly describes the death and burial of Moses. At that crucial moment, we were in the ends of the land of Moab, where the servant of the Lord had reached the end of his earthly journey. As a heavenly messenger designated to witness these odd events, I could feel the solemn atmosphere that involved that scenario. God himself had commanded Moses to go to the top of Mount Nebo to contemplate the promised land before his departure for eternity. The Lord took him to himself in a divine act of burial. It was as if the Creator's own hands involved his faithful servant in a heavenly hug, hiding him from human eyes and ever. No man knew until that day, and he would not even know from then on, the exact place where the remains of the one who had been an instrument of so many divine wonders rested. The mystery of the absence of his tomb represented not only a riddle for future generations, but also a tangible manifestation of the sovereign protection of the Most High over his chosen. It was as if each atom of the body of Moses was wrapped in an insurmountable divine cloak, a barrier against the evil intentions of the one who opposes light. The invisibility of the tomb became a silent testimony of the magnitude of the divine plan in preserving the memory and integrity of its servant beyond the earthly borders. In this unique moment in sacred history, I could clearly realize that God was not only burying a simple man, he was sealing an eternal narrative on faithfulness, protection, and spiritual transcendence. I clearly remember the solemn atmosphere that involved that unforgettable moment in which I witnessed the outcome of the earthly journey of Moses. We were in the ends of the land of Moab, in a valley surrounded by the majesty of the mountains and the whisper of the winds that seemed to pay tribute to the one who had been so intimate with the divine. The divine order echoed in my being, and I knew something grand was about to happen. Moses, the faithful servant of the Lord, had reached at the end of his earthly pilgrimage. His calling on earth was finished, but his spiritual trajectory would reverberate for eternity. I was an eyewitness to the moment God himself led Moses to the top of Mount Nebo, where he contemplated the promised land before being taken to the heavenly arms. In that sublime moment, the Creator himself assumed the role of burial of his beloved servant. An aura of sacredity involved that unique and divine act, as if the hands of the Most High were putting an ethereal cloak over the inert body of Moses. Under my heavenly eyes, I saw the tangible manifestation of the Lord's supernatural protection over his chosen. And then the mystery came no one knew. It would not even know from there the exact place where the remains of the one who had marked the story of Israel with unmatched signs and wonders rested. The absence of the visible tomb was not just a puzzle for future generations. It was a silent testimony of sovereignty and divine care about those who are faithful, even beyond the veil of death. Each particle of Moses, hidden body has become an indelible symbol of the magnitude of divine designs to preserve the memory and integrity of its servant beyond the temporal limits. In that unique moment in sacred history, I understood with unshakable clarity that God was not just burying a man, he was establishing an eternal narrative on faithfulness, protection, and spiritual transcendence. I clearly remember the electrifying atmosphere that involved that epic moment in the ends of the heavenly kingdoms, where I was called to witness a dispute that transcended our earthly understanding. It was as if the very fabric of reality was vibrating with the intensity of the imminent battle. On the one hand, the Archangel Miguel, with his aura of justice and protection emanation, ready to defend the heavenly designs. On the other, wrapped in shadows and tricks, was Satan, the cunning and relentless opponent. In the center of this divine clash was the body of Moses, the object of an evil greed that challenged the borders between the visible and invisible plans. The striking presence of the Hebrew leader hovered on that confrontation as a living riddle that cried for answers. The enemy of souls wanted to have not only a physical body, but the history and spiritual connection that Moses represented. It was as if every fiber of that emblematic figure incarnated centuries of divine revelations and sacred legacies. As the heavenly hosts prepared for the decisive clash, I could feel the severity of the moment weighing on our immortal spirits as a cosmic responsibility. The battle for the body of Moses was not just a struggle for the possession of a deadly container. It was a shock between antagonistic forces that sought to affirm their supremacy over the eternal destinies of humanity. Each movement of the heavenly contenders resonated with the magnitude of choices that would shape the directions of the divine and the profane. And there, in the epicenter of the dispute between light and darkness, I witnessed the unusual intensity of a spiritual war whose consequences would reverberate through the eons. I clearly remember the moment I witnessed Satan's evil strategy unfolded into the battle of the body of Moses. His obsession went far beyond simple physical possession. He sought to prevent the spiritual ascension of Moses, as if directly challenging the divine plans to that dedicated servant. It was as if the enemy of souls tried to play between the glorious destiny reserved for Moses and the will of the Creator himself. I felt every movement of darkness echo as a challenge to light, an affront to the heavenly designs that guided that unique leader over the years. The strategy was subtle, but carried with cosmic consequences, transforming Moses' body into an idol, a source of diverted worship that would distort true devotion to the Most High. It was as if Satan tried to generate a parallel narrative, a counterattack on the sacred history written by the hands of the Eternal. His insidious intent was to erode not only the earthly influence, but also the untouched spiritual legacy that Moses represented before God and his people. In that timeless confrontation between the forces of light and darkness, I could glimpse the clash for the symbolic meaning of the human body, the essence of choices that shape not only individuals, but eternal destinations. I clearly remember the moment I witnessed Satan's evil strategy unfolded into the battle of the body of Moses. His obsession went far beyond simple physical possession. He sought to prevent the spiritual ascension of Moses, as if directly challenging the divine plans to that dedicated servant. It was as if the enemy of souls tried to play between the glorious destiny reserved for Moses and the will of the Creator himself. I felt every movement of darkness echo as a challenge to light, an affront to the heavenly designs that guided that unique leader over the years. The strategy was subtle but carried with cosmic consequences, transforming Moses' body into an idol, a source of diverted worship that would distort true devotion to the Most High. It was as if Satan tried to generate a parallel narrative, a counterattack on the sacred history written by the hands of the Eternal. His insidious intent was to erode not only the earthly influence, but also the untouched spiritual legacy that Moses represented before God and his people. In that timeless confrontation between the forces of light and darkness, I could glimpse the clash for the symbolic meaning of the human body, the essence of choices that shape not only individuals, but eternal destinations. I remember, as if it were yesterday, of the epic conclusion of the dispute for the body of Moses. Despite the tireless and evil efforts of Satan, divine sovereignty prevailed. It was a time when heavenly light shone with intensity over the darkness, reminding us of the supreme victory of the Most High. The story of this spiritual battle was not just a confrontation between invisible forces. It was a deep lesson on true worship, divine mercy, and unshakable confidence in the protection of the Lord. In this regard, I learned that even in the fiercest attacks of the opponent, unshakable faith and sincere devotion are powerful shields that keep us firm in the way of light. The outcome of this cosmic struggle not only reinforced my conviction in the supremacy of the divine, but it also reminded me that in all circumstances, the last word belongs to the Creator of the universe. May this extraordinary narrative of the dispute for the body of Moses serve as a constant reminder that, in the face of the invisible battles of life, our greatest fortress lies in full confidence in the unfailing protection of the Almighty. Discover more surprising secrets of the Bible scriptures. Subscribe to the channel so as not to lose any exclusive content. Always remember, in the invisible battles of life, trust in divine protection. May the history of the dispute for the body of Moses strengthen your faith today.